Viktor Frankl said, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms. To choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's way." This is Finding Human with Sue Jackson. Stay tuned for the next hour as Sue explores the human psyche, what makes us tick, and how to live better, more fulfilled and more meaningful lives. Only on 101.9 High FM.
Hello, I'm back with you now on High FM. It's my first program of this year, 2025. And as we enter this year, I wish all of you listening in today to me, to my family and my friends, I wish you resilience and hope and compassion. We are entering into another year, and it's another year of war, of strife. And my topic today is the call to courage. We are all being called to step forward into courage, into our own lights. And Ernest Hemingway said, "Courage is grace under pressure." And I think that's exactly what I would say right at the moment, that it is under pressure. We are under pressure. And Simon Sinek said that, when we see our friends, our neighbors, no, not necessarily neighbors, because we in South Africa, we hide behind high walls unless we're living in places where there are no walls. But, Simon Sinek said that if our friends are struggling, we have this instinct to fix and to take away their suffering. And in that way, we actually do not hear what they're saying to us. A lot of people at the moment, whether it's in the diaspora or in Israel, are suffering from post-traumatic stress since the 7th of October and the horrors of that terror attack. They are still around us all the time. Hamas is still playing these psychological games, and there's a propaganda war going on. But what Simon Sinek said is that we have this instinct to fix. And yet true friendship is to sit in the mud with our friend until they are ready to get out of the mud. True friendship is not to fix, but to honor the space, however deep it is that they're in. People are inclined to say, don't talk about it and you'll feel better. That's not true. All you do is pushing it under, and by the time you actually do admit to that incredible fear or pain, whatever it is that you're feeling, it has got tentacles by that stage, which are strangling you. I mentioned, I think my last program last year about my little granddaughter in Israel wanting to speak to me because she said there are monsters. And she was afraid to go to sleep at night because of the monsters. And while I realized it was because of the sirens and they were having to run into bomb shelters, at the same time, I made the great mistake of saying to her, there are no monsters. Well, that was an absolute lie. And there are monsters. There are monsters all around. And quite honestly, my father recognized this. As a very small child, I was a very sensitive little girl. And I saw monsters everywhere at night. And my father was a very tall man, 6'3", whatever that is. And when he would come in to kiss me goodnight, I would tell him that he had to check under my bed, in the cupboard, behind the curtains. And sure enough, the 6'3" man would get on his knees, look under my bed, tell me there's nobody there. He never, ever laughed at my fears. I would then tell him to look in the cupboard. He would look in the cupboard. I would then say, look behind the curtains. And so it would go on. And he knew the truth. If anyone knew the truth that there were monsters around, it was my father from World War II. And he never laughed at me. And perhaps when our children are afraid, and at the moment the kids are afraid, we need to recognize their fear, not say there's nothing to be afraid of. There is a lot to be afraid of at the moment. We are told not to wear anything that identifies us when we went on holiday, when people going on holiday to different places in the world, or even to Cape Town. Don't wear anything that identifies you too much as a Jew. Well, it so happens that my daughter and son-in-law were walking down the beach one day and stopped to talk, and some people stopped to talk to them and said, are you Jewish? And so, they weren't wearing big mug and doorbells or anything else, but they were Jewish. You could see they were Jewish. And they said, yes, of course they're Jewish. And there was a wonderful interaction that actually took place because of that honesty. So we're told don't wear anything, but how dare we be threatened like that? I was incredibly proud of different countries and South Africa as well, in Cape Town. They had menorahs on their car roofs, car after car after car, coming down through Sea Point, going along the beachfront, everyone hooting, people hanging out of the windows of the flats and what have you, shouting Good Hanukkah and Chai, Israel Chai. And apparently it was a wonderful feeling of connectedness. Now, I thought to myself, what a wonderful thing to do. And then I saw that even in Thailand, in Phuket, there was like a tuk-tuk that was going along with a menorah on its roof. We have to be proud of who we are. We haven't got this stage of our lives of 2025 by not actually having struggled to be there. And there was a wonderful, I'm just trying to think what it was. Oh, it was Rabbi Jonathan Sachs said, I wonder if anyone who has not known the depths of Jewish suffering through the ages can possibly understand how deeply the desire for peace is etched in the heart of every Jew. And I haven't heard any person that I know saying that they don't want peace. But peace at a cost is not something that we can look at lightly, because then Israel would be no more. But I'm not getting into that. The fact is we cannot shy away from who we are. We can't shy away from our light. And support comes often from very unexpected places. There is that song, "The wound is where the light gets in." And when I think about that, and I think of all the hostage families who, since October the 7th, have been wondering what is happening to their families. Are they alive? Are they dead? The Hamas is playing these psychological games, and they are so, so cruel. I think what we need to also start doing is looking at podcasts that are going to lift us up, are going to say to us, there's far more than just war. Let's look at what there is. We can read books that also keep us feeling that life is good. There is hope out there. There are good people. I read this incredible book, I'm actually still reading it, about British heroes of World War II. Well, they didn't have to be heroes, and these were heroes in the Holocaust and in Germany. In general, you can't believe the heroism. And then there's a wonderful book out. It's on the 7th of October, and the heroes and heroines of that, of the 7th of October, and the terror massacre that took place. When I was first, my daughter in Israel said to me, read it, it's really worth reading. And I said, no, I don't want to read it. I thought it was going to be terrible. Actually, it was uplifting, really uplifting to see what people did to help one another, to get to the places where the worst was happening, the worst massacre was taking place. They put their lives at risk. Many of them lost their lives. So those are the sort of stories that we need to look at.
This is Finding Human with Sue Jackson. only on 101.9 High FM.
I'd like to tell you a story about something that happened in Jaffa in Israel. There was it was in one of the news sites. There was a religious Jewish man, and he was riding on one of those electric scooters, and he came up at a hell of a pace and knocked himself out. And people were rushing up to come and help. And the wonderful thing was that it was not only religious Jews running up to help. It was people of all sects. But the nice thing was, which was in this article, was that she said she ran up to see if she could help. And the first thing she heard was someone asking, that phoned for the ambulance services for help. And she recognized that the voice was an Arab Israeli. It was not an Israeli, a Jewish Israeli. And she said it really, for her, it gave her a lift, because here there was this religious Jew injured, lying on the ground, and here was this Arab Israeli who stopped and phoned for help and waited until help arrived. Now, those are the sort of stories that we often don't hear in the news when we're hearing what's wrong with us and what we're doing wrong in Israel. The other thing that I really enjoyed was a story about Haifa. And Haifa is a very mixed area, city. And they're over in the Christian neighborhood, just before Christmas decorations went up. And last year they were not put up because it was in honor of the 7th of October massacre and all the people kidnapped and killed. And so they didn't decorate. But this year, apparently there were Christmas decorations everywhere. There were Hanukkah menorahs up. And it is a city that has Christian, Islam, and Judaism all living there. And certainly it has seen its times of terror and fear and suspicion of one another. But this story gave me hope for the future, that there is hope for the future. Even with all this negativity around, we have to look for that hope often, and we cannot feed it in each other. Now, I don't know if you all know what it's like to go into a group where all they're talking about is the horrors of war. There's no humor, there's nothing. Well, I read the story the other day. I mean, I not read the story, but I heard that Israel had been voted, he ranked 5th of one of the happiest nations on earth. Now, in a region that is in constant conflict, let's face it, not only now, but far, far worse now, to be ranked one of the happiest nations on earth, and this is not the first time, this is consistently, Israel is ranked. And with, they were asked why, what actually happens? Why do you get ranked like this on 5th? And when you think of the generations of trauma that have come before everyone, throughout, everyone's carrying some trauma with them in Israel and in the diaspora, Jews. But the main thing is that they cling to life. They will not let the problem define them. And that's something we can all learn. Not to let the pain, the anger, make us into the victims. We've got to use this pain to build. And after the October 7th massacre, one of the things that was said was, we will dance again. Now, I have been asked by quite a few Christian friends of mine, why that every time they turn on one of the Israeli sites, there's always people dancing. The other thing, actually, that someone asked me is, don't the women dance? Because you're forever seeing the men, whether it's in IDF or wherever they are, they're dancing with the Torah scrolls and holding it and dancing around. And someone said to me, why do they dance all the time? Well, as they say, we will dance again. And that has been literally a motto. And yes, for all of those who think women don't dance, women are not dancing with the men, but they are dancing definitely with themselves and in groups. And there's nothing nicer than to go to a challah bake, a baking of the kitkis, and the dancing and the singing that happens there as well. It's beautiful. It's such a feeling of connectedness. So yes, this the when I'm asked why do Jews dance all the time and sing, I say, wow, what a wonderful way of celebrating that there is life, and we will rise in optimism because we'll not allow that feeling of solidarity, of life, of being alive to be taken from us. I read an article about in this book about the British heroes, and that when the British Army liberated Bergen-Belsen, on the first Friday night, there was a British Army chaplain, I don't know what his name was, but the story went that when he ended the meal, he ended it by saying, Am Yisrael Chai. And that's been the something that's been said all the time, especially now again, Israel will live, and very definitely. So it's a matter of, at the moment, choosing hope over despair. I heard that Floyd Mayweather, the boxing champion, I saw him giving a talk, and he'd got some prize from a Jewish organization, and he's very pro-Israel. And I thought to myself, wow, I was actually really very grateful to him for talking out. And I thought, why should we be grateful that people talk out in honor of us, or in recognition of us? After all, Douglas Murray does, and Major Kemp and Colonel Kemp. Many people do, but not enough. So my wish is that everyone who has an opportunity to have a voice, please talk out against the negativity, that there is positivity, that there is aid going through to Hamas, that the hospitals that they keep telling us that we have attacked, that the patients were moved out first. In many of those instances, they are pure lies that we're hearing. It's this propaganda war, and it's a psychological war of trying to break the Jews down. But no Jews, no news. Let's face it, there's just pure Jew hatred. And I have to fight very, very hard. I never thought I would be in a situation that I would have to fight not to feel this unbelievable anger. And it's not in me. I didn't know that I had this sort of anger and this fury. And at times I'm shocked at myself that I do feel this rage and disgust, especially when the propaganda psychological videos are put on about our hostages that are still being held. Where is the world condemning this? The hostages. What about in South Africa taking Israel to the court for genocide, when look what's happening in our own backyard in Nigeria? Does anyone ever talk about that? No. And it is this pure hatred. I must admit, lately I have had to work very hard on this to say, no, this is not me. And destiny is calling to me, and it's calling to each one of us, Jews, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, whatever you may be. We're all being tested, and we're all being asked to look a bit further, to read a bit more, to understand a bit more, to survive this hatred and suspicion which is going on around the world. If I see what's happening in Melbourne, in Australia, in cities like Melbourne and Sydney, I'm beyond shocked. And so are so many people, and especially South African Jews who left to go to Canada, to Australia during the apartheid years. because they didn't believe in apartheid. Many of them left then, and they are shocked at what's happening today. What about in London? There was actually something that warmed my heart the other day, but I don't know why it warmed my heart. But it did. It was the Liverpool or Leeds game, I think it was. And there were a whole lot of pro-Palestinian protesters with their flags and shouting hatred. And the Leeds players came out pro-Israel, and they were shouting that one of their main players was Israeli. You can correct me if I'm wrong, that it wasn't Leeds, and had shot a goal. So I thought, oh, well, you know what? If we can be lauded for shooting a goal, that's fine. Let's all aim for the goal. And the goal is ultimate peace, let's face it. Now, I wanted to go back to the fact that Israel is marked as one of the fifth happiest, ranked fifth happiest in the World Happiness Report. And the article said, Israelis' collective resilience and commitment to one another serve as a powerful reminder that happiness is not merely a product of external circumstances, but a mindset rooted in community, purpose, and hope. How true is that? We are a community, wherever we are, in the diaspora, wherever we are. If there's a problem, there's someone to help you. Someone gives birth to a baby in any of in our community. A list goes out to prepare meals. Who would like to send meals? If there's a Shiva week, a week of mourning after a death, what happens? Once again, people deliver food. Breakfast, lunch, supper, whatever you need is given to you. Now, that is what has happened all around Israel. It's been quite amazing that the people, I read about an Israeli taxi driver who has a sign on his taxi to say that all IDF soldiers going up to their bases, it was free. He gave them free rides wherever they are. Now, I mean, you can imagine the petrol that took, but that was his way of doing something. And then what about the children? Whether they're children here or in Israel, they are encouraged to do something, to write letters to the soldiers, to thank them for what's going on. It's quite amazing that the children are encouraged to go out there to help one another, to help older people, perhaps to clean their houses if they're struggling. People have gone onto the farms to help the farmers because, let's face it, they've lost a lot of their crops. But I think we need to understand that happiness is not just something that just happens. No, we work towards it. And it says that one of the standout features of Israeli society is its strong sense of social capital. It's a country much smaller than New Jersey even, but familial bonds extend deeply. And many Israelis live within walking distance of their relatives. Isn't that beautiful? In America today, I know that some friends of ours who left years and years ago also thought they could leave South Africa and perhaps have a better life away from the racism that's in South Africa. Definitely that was in South Africa. And they left for America. And what has happened now is that their children have all gone to different universities in different states around America. So there are no more Friday nights. There's no more get-together, perhaps on a Shabbos, or there isn't that social bonding anymore because the children have moved to other areas. And there's loneliness in that for the parents great loneliness. So that's one of the things that they said about why Israel ranks one of the happiest is familial bonds. And also that Israeli families are larger than average, with the country boasting the highest birth rate in the developed world, with approximately 2.89 births per woman in 2022. That's very interesting. And apparently, someone was telling me the other day that they'd heard about a man who was trying to get his wife to a maternity hospital, to hospital, because she was going to give birth. And he tried 3 different hospitals, and all the maternity wards were full. So, eventually, unfortunately, she did get to a hospital. But look at that. That's hope. That's hope for the future. That's looking to the future and saying there is a future. And we will be here, and our children and our generations following our children. All the generations to come will go on. If our families, my father was not in the Holocaust, but certainly he was, I've mentioned before, he was a bomber pilot in Bomber Command, squadron leader in the Royal Air Force in Britain, and had to go through Bergen-Belsen afterwards, once it was liberated. Now, if our parents of my generation could go ahead and still have children, my brother was born during the war. My mother had already lost a husband. And yet they still went for life. They still celebrated and thought there could be a future for children. Now, if you think about it, my parents were in the middle of Britain, in London, the bombing of London. Britain was falling, according to everybody, and yet children were still born. Thank goodness for that mindset, and that we are here because of it. My friends and I often actually discuss it. Gosh, you would have thought that they would have run from children rather than have children, rather just go and have an empty life or a full life, partying or whatever. Now, beyond this family unit, the Israeli society also has this very strong community ties. And they have community ties in neighborhood, not only in Israel, in any Jewish society that you go into. People have always commented on the community strength, the source of strength, that it goes beyond the family unit. It is it's celebrating each other, and that Israelis are known for their tight-knit neighborhoods where everyone knows each other. And there was when some of the hostages were found and freed. I think it was a Jewish holiday or Shabbos, I can't remember. But the story was it was in a religious neighborhood, and people had opened their windows and they were shouting down to the people below who were walking to the synagogues. They found their hostages freed. And because they knew that they wouldn't be turning on their TVs to hear the news. And the people on the walking on the road were shouting out, "What? Where from? How many?" I'll get back to that shortly.
This is Finding Human with Sue Jackson, only on 101.9 High FM.
Hello, this is Sue, and you're about to listen to an audio clip by Simon Sinek, "Where Does Courage Come From?" Thank you, Craig.
The first 4 principles that you spoke about seems like it's really underpinned by courage, which is what you spoke a lot about.
Yeah.
And courage to a lot of people individually, within teams and within business is a scary thing.
Yeah.
What would you say fosters courage? Is that an internal thing? Is it innate? Or is that something that you actually seek from the people around you?
Yeah. So in my experience, courage is an external thing. I've had the opportunity to meet people who have risked their lives to save the lives of others. And they didn't have to. They would not have been faulted if they didn't. They were not ordered to. They may have violated orders, in fact, to do so. And I've had the chance to ask them, "Why did you do it?" And almost unanimously they say, "Because they would have done it for me." And it's the sense that someone has my back, that gives me the courage to do something for them. You know, if you're a world famous tightrope walker and you wanted to try a brand new death-defying act for the first time, you're going to do it with a net. It's not your ability that gave you the courage, even though you're really good at it. It's the net. It's this external thing that gave you the courage, and you build it. So I think that to live with a servant's heart, to be that leader, that empathetic leader, what that engenders is that people start to believe that you have their backs, that you would do something for them, that you would sacrifice your interests to protect them, and miraculously they'll do it back. And the only thing that makes you a leader is you're the one who went first. You're the one who took the risk first, right? That's the only thing that makes you the leader. Leader is not because you have the rank. We call you leader because you literally led us. You went first towards the danger, to take the risk. You set the tone. And people may have been cynical at the start and you did it again, and they may have been cynical again and you did it again, and they realized, wait, this is for real. And weird human things happen and they start to offer you the same kind of love and trust back. I believe it's external, and I believe it's based on the quality of human relationships, which means it doesn't happen overnight. Like in the military, they do not build the trust in combat. It's not when they step off the plane with their rifles in arms do they all trust each other. It's in peacetime where they're training and learning to love each other. The Israelis, one of the most successful militaries in military history, the unit that you train with when you're 18 years old is your unit for the rest of your life. So when you're in your mid-40s and you get called back for reserve, it's the same people you trained with when you were 18 years old, because they so understand that the bonds that you form when you're a kid, that they want those bonds throughout your entire military career. They understand where the trust comes from. So I believe that we talk about human beings, we forget we're social animals. You know, there's an entire section in the bookshop called self-help. There is no section in the bookshop called help others. And yet at the end of the day, by ourselves, we're crap. Like, we're just not that good by ourselves. We're not that strong, we're not that clever. But you give a team together, we can lift anything and solve any problem. Not a single person on earth solved any problem by themselves. It never happened. And even if it was their big brain, there was somebody who believed in them, who gave them a break, or funded them, whatever it was. They did not do it alone. And I think it's our ability to foster relationships that underpins the courage we need to do all those difficult things.
This is Finding Human with Sue Jackson, only on 101.9 High FM.
Hello, Sue, and I'm back with you again. And if you'd like to send me any messages, if you've got anything that you'd like to say or ask, please do so on WhatsApp 061 895 1019. What you just heard was Simon Sinek talking about courage and where does courage come from. And as he says, courage is a scary thing. The person who was asking him the question at the beginning had a very strong Scottish, I think, accent. So you might have missed that. But he said courage is a scary thing. And Simon Sinek said it's external, not internal. Well, you know, if you look, and he mentioned the unit, that IDF, when they're 18, and the unit that they train with in the army are the units there for life. And, you know, this was proved again and again and again, but especially after the 7th of October. For that first day, by the way, and perhaps the 8th of October, when the world began to hear about the atrocities, Israel was, people were shocked, and Israel was suddenly given some support, you know, in the media. But my gosh, it only lasted for perhaps 2 days before Israel was being blamed for the attack, that terror attack from Hamas, the terror group. And so it didn't last for long. But look what happened to the Israeli society. My gosh, the support, they opened food bars although before that, let me just go before that as soon as all around the world, diaspora Jews and Jews who are in the army, perhaps reservists, got on planes and flew home. They had to send extra planes out to actually bring their IDF home. Now, they were not told to come back immediately. They came back. And that, to me, is that unbelievable need to support one another, that saying that our safety is, we're not safe on our own. We have to get back there and help one another and restore the safety of our country, which is amazing. And this is one of the backbones of Israeli society. It's that strong sense that we might be very, very small, but we are there for one another. And that there, being involved in one another's lives, brings a feeling of connectedness, which unfortunately so many people in the diaspora do not have because of the loneliness. I'm going to have someone on my program in a few weeks' time who will tell you about the support that she has had in major losses in her life. Now, so it is a community of strength. And my granddaughter was telling me, and I might have mentioned this before, she lives in Tel Aviv, and she was going on her little electric scooter down the main road in the walkway, should I say, well, along the beach. She was going to work and the sirens went off and she quickly had to stop. And a restaurant owner, one of the restaurants, was just closing his doors when he saw her stopping, and he said, "Come in quickly." And she went into the shop, the restaurant quickly, and went into the bomb shelter there, and there were quite a few other people. He had called other people, quickly, come in, and everyone helping one another. But so she said she was actually really worried about her scooter, but she didn't need to worry about her scooter. It was certainly there when she came out. But a few months later, a friend of hers said, "Let's go. There's this lovely restaurant. Let's on the walkway. Let's go to that tonight for dinner." And she said, "Fine." And she said it was only when she walked into the restaurant that she thought, "I recognize something here. What is it?" And then the manager said, "I'm sure I recognize you." And she suddenly recognized the manager. And they both started to laugh because why they did recognize each other, but it was because it was his restaurant and he had opened his door to the stranger and said, "Come in and be safe." It reminds me of Abraham, in the desert, waiting to open his tent for strangers. I love that story of my daughter. My daughter going for dinner at the same place that had offered her help. Thank you, Craig.
This is Finding Human with Sue Jackson, only on 101.9 High FM.
We're going to hear a few words now from on an audio clip by Quincy L.K. I found this little man the other day on the podcast, and I love him. Okay, thank you, Craig.
Hello there, traveller. My name is Quincy. Welcome to, not Quincy's Tavern right now. I've been out traveling a bunch, and right now I'm here at the Lady's Mantle. It is an apothecary that my good friend Miller Mullis apprentices at. But I'm glad I caught you. I heard that you just recently graduated from your studies, and I wanted to send forth my most heartfelt congratulations. And I'm sorry that I don't have a gift to really commemorate the occasion, but if you'll indulge me, I do have a few pieces of advice I could give you that help even myself even now. It'll only take a moment if you have one to spare. Wonderful. Well, number one, remember that you always have a choice. Even in the most complicated, worrisome situations, you always have the choice to change something or do something. Even when the balance of the world seems to be at stake, you have the choice to speak and say something or stay silent. You have this choice to go out and do or to stay and be. You always have the power to change your story to be whatever you want it to be. And that's a fact. And remember that you can change your mind at any point too. And that's okay. It's where the best stories come from. Number 2, be passionate about something. Whether that is your craft, a hobby, artwork, the environment, an animal companion, loved ones, or even just yourself. Be passionate about something. Passion gives us purpose, and purpose keeps us going through the many dark times that life seems to bring to us. But the wonderful thing about passion is that you don't have to be the best of it. You can enjoy something without knowing everything or being masterfully skilled at it. And just like choices, passions can change, and they're allowed to. Number 3, be content with what you have, but not with who you are. What I mean by that is just that. All the world will give us all these nice things, but they won't come with us. Can't take it with you when you're gone, as the saying is, yeah? But you will always have that reflection of yourself in the mirror and that spark that's inside your heart right now. Nurture that. Keep that close to you and always strive to be a better version of yourself. Life will always be about learning, evolving into who we're meant to be. And with that evolving process, there comes some times when we shed parts of ourselves that we grew up with, or parts of ourselves that no longer serve who we're becoming. Allow that to happen. It's a beautiful thing. But to summarize it all, remember you always have a choice. You must always be passionate about something, and be content with what you have, but never with who you are. And I hope that whatever next adventure you come across, that you will have the confidence to face it, the stubbornness to push through it, and the wisdom to know when to ask for help. Be safe out there.
This is Finding Human with Sue Jackson, only on 101.9 High FM.
Hello, this is Sue, and I'm back with you, and I can see that the time is going very quickly, but I wanted to tell you a nice story. I was at a shopping mall at the pay station. There were 2 pay stations, and I had a 50 Rand note, and I was trying to pay for my parking. And it just kept spitting out my 50 Rand note, and I was really getting very irritated. Anyway, there was a woman at the pay station next to me, and she said to me, "Let me help you. Is there a problem?" And I turned to look at her. She was a Muslim woman, dressed up. She didn't have a burqa on, but she was certainly dressed as a Muslim woman. And I have got like brooches saying bring them home. I've got bracelets saying bring them home. So I'm obviously a Jewish woman, or anyway, a woman who supports Israel. And so I said to her, you know what, I'm not sure what's happening, but it keeps spitting out my 50 Rand. So she said, well, let me try. Give me your ticket and let me try on this one. She put it in, and I gave her the 50 Rand, and certainly it spat it out again. So she then took 20 Rand out of her purse, put it in, paid for my ticket, which was 10 Rand. And I said, you know what, I don't even have change to give you. And she said, no, it's my absolute pleasure today. Really it is. So she said, I can't give you any money, but I can give you a blessing. And, my blessing is one of gratitude. And thank you so much. And the 2 of us actually laughed. It was a beautiful feeling. Because for all the negativity that is around Jews and Israel at the moment, and Gaza, and Islam and Muslims everywhere, there are the positive which we need to highlight, we need to look for. And we are all people feeling fear. We all are people with needs for a better future and hopes for a better future. And we cannot give up that sense of hope for a better future. And the one thing that I think I have learned in my life is that if the moment we don't have a purpose in our lives, we slip into a depression. How does purpose come about? Purpose comes about by reaching out beyond ourselves to others. And this is one of the things that helps make Israel the 5th happiest country in the world, even during wartime, or maybe especially during wartime as well, because everybody is reaching out to one another. Now, I was telling you the story about when it was a Shabbos or a Jewish holiday, and people were walking in the streets below, and people were putting their windows down and shouting to the people below. They've got some hostages, and they were shouting up, who, where? And they said 3 hostages have been found and saved. And even people on the beach that day, at one of the main beaches in Tel Aviv, the lifeguards over the intercom shouted out, some hostages freed, and 3 hostages freed. I mean, look at that as interconnectedness and care, which is wonderful. Shimon Peres said, look, we have existed for 4,000 years, 2,000 years in the diaspora, in exile. Nobody in the Middle East speaks their original language but Israel. When we started years ago, we were, this was 64 years ago, he said at the time, we were 650,000 people. So, we are maybe swimming a little bit against the stream, but we continue to swim. And that is absolute truth. I just wanted to see that, okay, I'm being told to wrap up. So let's all find a purpose in our lives, a purpose to reach beyond ourselves, to find the good in each other, to realize that we are in a new year, 2025. We all have responsibilities. We all have to tap into our own courage and, if possible, help others around us. And I'd like to end with this. Mahatma Gandhi said, the greatest of humanity is not in being human, but in being humane. May we all be humane. Thank you, Craig, and thank you, everyone, for listening.